I just decided to try to do, basically kind of mimic what Rudy was doing. And unfortunately, I didn't have any nice walnut or anything like that. I just had a piece of wet maple, spalted maple sitting around. So I tried to basically duplicate my version of his twice turned bowl. So I, turned the cylinder and put the scalloping on it, and then I turned the bowl with the stand, and you can see the result here. It's unfinished. It's about 5¼ inches high, I think, and about 6¾ inches in the long dimension. And I probably wouldn't do it again with wood that's kind of this spalted, because like, as you can see on the right-hand side over there, I do have a little, even though I was trying to be careful there, I have a little tear out in places and stuff like that, because the wood was pretty soft.
Yeah.
I didn't sand this or anything. I just turned it and put it in a bag with some shavings to dry. And it's fairly dry now. It's lost about 25% of its weight. And then I was trying to do, a little bottom on it, so you can see what I did there with the bottom so far. But again, not finished, just put away to dry.
Yeah. Well, it looks great. I mean, you can tell that you got some tear out on the rim, but still, I like the shape and everything of it. In the wood, of course, all the spalted in the wood makes it look fabulous.
Right.
It's an incredible piece. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, this is, I went fishing one day and I parked by a stream that I usually do. And when I got out to get in the back to put my waders on, there was a little pile of wood there. And that one of the chunks had a crotch piece in it. And so I threw it in the Jeep and did the crotch piece, cut the crotch piece up to make a couple of small platters, and this is left over. And so I said, okay, I'll try it with Rudy's thing.
Yeah.
And I should clarify real quick. I wasn't just saying the wood's beautiful. I think you did a phenomenal job. You don't need me to tell you that, but it looks pro in my mind.
Yeah, that's great.
Now it's going to require a lot of sanding to actually finish it, and of course I have no way of putting it back on the lathe right now. So it's going to be pretty much hand sanding.
Hand sanding. Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Only take a couple minutes, right?
Yeah.
Right.
All
Hey, Ted.
right.
Try Control Command F. I just Googled it.
Say again, Norm.
Control Command F.
This is going to create like some kind of tornado or something, isn't it?
Didn't do anything. Nothing. So I'm
no.
in Chrome, so that's part of it.
I looked up Chrome. Try Shift Command F.
Shift Command F.
There
How's
you
that?
go.
All right. Good job, Norm. Let me write
Apple
that down.
support's not in my contract.
Shift Command F. Okay. For
But your
full
consulting
screen.
fee will kill them.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, this is a piece of cherry that I had from a tree that I took down quite a few years ago, and I think this is the last piece of wood I had left. It's dry, it wasn't wet, which is one of the reasons I didn't try the scalloping around the edge. And Ted knows the real reason why, but I told Ted I think I fell asleep during that part of the video.
He's like, meh, good enough.
Anyway, I was gonna make the base a little bit smaller, but this thing was so dry and dusty, and I just wasn't sure I was gonna get it to cooperate. So I went for a little bit larger base and tried to get 4 legs out of it, which was somewhat successful. I'm going to try this again because I think it's kind of an interesting project. But what I really enjoyed out of this was the grain and the marks that were in following the pith and whatnot. When you see the next slide, you'll get a little bit better view. of that. And Norm, thanks for putting that inset in there. I was trying to figure out how to do that and I couldn't do it. So that worked out great. But you can see the pith goes through right basically at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And you get a pretty good picture of this any way you look at it. So it was a lot of fun. It's was sealed with seal cell, and then I used the Beal system and just buffed it out.
Very cool.
Nice.
How long do you let that dry before you buffed it, Bob?
I left it inside with no humidity, and it's probably a week or more, and I just did that because I wanted to make sure it was good and dry before I buffed it.
Are you going to carve any more on the feet, did you say, Bob, or
Not on this one.
on the foot, I mean?
I would have done that. I think I would have made the base a little bit smaller, and I would have made the feet more pronounced, but
Okay.
I was fighting this thing all the way along, so I just opted to leave it bulky.
Ted, you can probably hit your plus sign a little, zoom in on these now that we got all that extra room.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that works. Nice.
How's that?
Awesome.
That's good.
Better.
That's good.
All right. Well, I like the wood they got there, Bob, and the shape of the bowl is great on there.
Thank you.
How hard was it to get that even thickness, Bob?
Actually, it wasn't too difficult, actually. I just kind of taken small little cuts and got it down to where I thought I could manage it. And then I gave it a good sanding, so.
I don't see any tool marks. That's cool.
Yep.
I think it's a very pretty non-scalloped edge.
Thank you. Yeah, it turned out it was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'd scalloped any of this. Well, you can't see my arrow. At the high points, I'm kind of thinking that might have come flying off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it looks great even without the scallop on there, the rim, it looks good. Like that natural edge.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the grain pattern in it and whatnot. I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yep.
So one of those things you never know is going to happen till you reveal it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Yep.
Mike.
You want to zoom out a little? One.
Yeah.
People submitted different sizes, so it's going to change a little. There you go.
How's that? You there, Mike?
This was actually done in a Rudy Lopez workshop in 2018. And the wood they used was oak. And to me, it just was very lackluster. There was just nothing to it. It looked pretty bad. So I went on online. I wanted to ebonize it, and I found a YouTube video on the ebonizing wood 3 ways. And he says that the best was using India ink. So this is a Speedball brand, super black India ink. And then I was very happy with it. I did 2 coats with it, and then I decided to do the gold leaf on the scallop edges.
Nice.
And it just looked a heck of a lot better than just a plain piece of oak.
Looks great.
The beautiful.
I use that
contrast,
Speedball
is
India ink
wonderful.
too. That stuff's awesome.
Yeah, I was very happy with it. Much better than just a plain oak.
Yeah.
Beautiful contrast. I really like that.
Thank you.
Did you put any kind of top coat on it to seal that in?
No,
So it just has the Indian ink and then the gold leaf on it.
yeah,
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, there's some shellac, I think, in the India ink, but, so it
yes,
helps
there
set.
is. There is shellac in the ink.
Aren't we supposed to put like spray lacquer over gold leaf?
I don't know, Norm.
Only if it's- if
I've
it's-
only done gold leaf twice, so I'm not familiar with what you're supposed to do.
So it if it's real gold, you don't have to do that. But that's real expensive. So if it's not real gold, it'll tarnish and change color if you don't put something over the top of it.
Well, I was worried about it flaking
Eventually.
off or coming off with your finger.
No, it won't come off with your finger because the stuff you put on there
The bait, yeah.
to stick it down is basically an epoxy.
Hmm.
Typically.
I like
So
the,
you're saying just put a shellac on it then? I mean, lacquer?
Yeah, I do a light coat of spray lacquer.
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate the tip. Thank you.
Usually those kits that you can get for doing the gold leaf come with 2 liquids, one to use as the initial glue and one to put over the top afterwards.
Well, I must have bought the cheap one because it only came with the gold leaf.
I don't know.
The
Cheap
The
and gold
fool's
just
gold
don't.
leaf.
Well, like I said, it's not cheap if it's real gold, and then you won't ever have any problem, but that would have been expensive.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have bought that.
I like the shape you have on it, Mike, in the foot on that. I know Rudy does, he does also the three legs on his, but I like this foot on here and it seems like it'd be a lot more usable piece, you know, or more stable with it that way.
Yeah, I went for the stability and I like the look of it. I thought that the legs
Yeah,
would have changed it completely.
yeah,
So,
good job.
thank you.
Aesthetically, I think it also grounds the piece, you know, brings it down to earth very nicely.
Yeah.
Taller foot just would not be right.
Bob,
Yes, Michael has really sent me down this illusion rabbit hole, so I've been
Evil laugh.
yeah, been playing around a lot with just different designs and colors, and I'm forever amazed at when I start laying these things out on flat paper, how they change based on the piece that you're working on, because it just looks nothing like it looked when I put it out on a piece of graph paper. What I was doing here was just trying to play around with the colors, and I decided to choose a complementary color, and it's a blue and an orange. The other thing I noticed on this, and I don't, maybe you've got some tips on this, Michael. I find as I'm going around on these that I guess because the wood absorbs the dyes differently, I get some changes in the color.
Yeah,
Any
I see that. If it's segmented, I don't see that as much. If it's, just straight slab wood, I see it. So
Yeah.
sometimes I end up doing double dyes, going back
Yeah,
over it
I
again.
went over this thing a number of times and trying to get some consistency on it, but
That, and I don't know a better way. I've seen some people wear gloves when they're handling it while they're coloring it, but I don't like sweaty hands. So I do know that handling it while you're coloring other parts of it, you do have a tendency to rub some of the color off on the part you're holding.
okay. Good.
What dyes did you use?
I use that, let's see here, I got it written down here. It was the, that Faber-Castell Pit Artist pen.
Nice.
And it's a cobalt turquoise and orange glaze.
Yeah, it looks great, man. I really like it.
yeah,
I
I
like
like it
that
too.
pattern too.
Yeah. I think it's cool. I can see the difference in the colors there, but it doesn't take anything away for me.
Yeah,
No.
it shows up a lot more on the photograph. When you see it in person, it's a little bit more subtle. You don't really see
That's
it
good.
much, but, it's probably could be the lighting I was using too. I got it in a light box, and that was pretty intense
Although
light.
the
So.
other one, I forgot to add a second photo here too.
Yeah, that's just so you can see the side.
Yeah.
It was just 3 rows there, and I just kind of alternated the colors on that. But
Yeah.
Well, I like it, so I'll shut up and let everybody else talk.
How about the bottom side of it, Bob? What, we don't have a picture of that, I don't think. No.
I just went down 3 rows. All the rest of it's just plain. I don't know whether you can see
Okay.
it sitting right here. It's just.
Okay.
You can
It's a
see
new
it.
trick. Don't photograph the part you don't want to share.
Well, it's
Hey, don't
pretty
give
cool.
away my secrets. No, that's not cool.
It's pretty cool, Bob. I'm glad to see you giving Michael some competition.
Yeah,
very nice.
I got one I'm just starting on right now. It's gonna be fun. But it's gonna.
Oh, you went mute,
Very
Bo.
nice.
And I don't have control, so I didn't mute you on purpose. Don't blame me.
Yeah, and we can't unmute you. You got to unmute yourself.
Oh, I think I'm done. So there you go.
All right. Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
Bob Royce.
This is me. This is a piece that I rough turned and it sat around for probably over a year and I rediscovered it and finished it last week. It's pretty much spherical and it's pretty much exactly 5 inches by 5 inches. And it's walnut and it's got 3 coats of tung oil. Sanded to 400 and then 3 coats of tung oil, about a day between each coat.
How much CA in that bark?
Not any.
Really? And
Wow.
it sat for a year and it didn't separate? That's impressive.
Nope.
Yeah, it looks really
Yeah.
And then
attached.
it is on a shallow foot, as you can see. I always try to do something with the feet.
Yeah. But
Very
keeping
cool.
that natural bark edge on there, it's pretty good.
Didn't we, when we watched the Mike Smith video, I swear maybe one of the members or somebody said something about it depends on when that wood is harvested, the time of the year, if that bark's gonna come off or not.
Yeah. Well, what Mike said is that if you want to retain the bark and a natural edge, that the wood should be harvested in the winter when the water
That's
is
what it was.
low.
Right.
And-
Right.
And if
late
you
fall
harvest
or
it in the
winter.
summertime, there's a good chance that bark's not going to stay on there.
If the sap is rising, it will stay. I mean, it will fall off.
Yeah.
It's not rising. It will stay on, maybe.
Okay. And as you can see from the bottom, the heartwood was on the bottom. So you get that nice oval pattern.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Hey, Bob, what's the dark color on the first picture on the side there? Is that the heartwood?
It's just
This here.
kind of like blushing in the wood.
Okay.
The heartwood is in the bottom. You can't even see the heartwood here.
Yeah. A little bit
There,
right
now
there.
Now you can see the heartwood.
Yeah.
But like I said, this sat on a shelf for a couple of years before I got back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay, and you got another piece here too, Bob.
This is red cedar hardwood. It's a box. It's about 3 inches in diameter and about 5.5 tall. And it's got sanded to 400 and 4 coats of clear lacquer. But it's more interesting in the next photo. There you go.
Yeah.
And the grains match up perfectly when you,
Oh, they put the top on.
yeah.
Yeah, I really like cedar, the color and the grain.
Yeah. First thing I ever made on a lathe was a cedar box.
Well, there you go.
It doesn't look like this one though. But my wife treasures it. She won't give it up. To me, it's like, okay, well, that probably should go in the burn pile.
Well, I did play the game of the 3 matching black lines at the top. The one in the center is actually where the lid fits. So it disguises the lid fit.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that technique.
Hey, did you burn a line there or is that just the cut?
Yeah, I used a, a Formica sample to burn a line.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see that. All right. Thanks, Bob. So next, Greg Smith, you there, Greg?
Okay,
we are.
this is a multi-bit screwdriver. I think you all recognize the days of having a set of dedicated screwdrivers are pretty much gone because of all the different kind of screwdriver bits. So I gave myself the exercise to make a good set of combination screwdrivers. And this is about there. It has 6 bits, five in the storage, which is held in by a super neodyne magnet, and 1 in the shaft, and it has a ratcheting mechanism left and right, and a combination of resin and wood. And why I think this is pretty much there, I think, is in the next photo, if you could switch over. Okay, this is in sequence, left to right, my various attempts, and I get these kits, from Rockler or Woodcraft often. On the left, you see this is not ratcheting. That format, you have a bit that has 2 sides, and so you can get 4 bits there, a Phillips and a flat, and maybe 2 squares bits or 2 torque bits. In the first one is awfully long, longer than I'd like, and a more crude turning is long because I actually drilled out the far end so I could put another bit in there, but the magnet didn't hold it well, so that was a discarded learning exercise. Number 2, a little bit nicer turning. I think that's maple, though I went in my kit box and looking for a ferrule, and I think I got confused. I think that's a ferrule for making candlesticks, an older project. So moving on to number 3, I got the actual ferrule that came with kit, another, solid brass, but it's still, 4 bits. The shaft pulls out and you can flip the bits over and you get 4 bits. Number 3, I said, oh gosh, I've got a lot of spare epoxy resin from other things. So I poured some in the top of a container, but I found that to be pretty crude, that you just got a clear visual distinction between the red epoxy, which I put sparkles in, and the wood. So moving on to number 4, okay, getting better here. I mixed the epoxy and the wood. The wood was not completely square. I put some angle on it. You'll see there are actually 2 different colors of epoxy in there. And now it's got the ratcheting mechanism, which works pretty nicely, but it's still too long and you're still limited to just 4 bits. To me, the answer is you need to have at least 6 bits. 1 square, 1 Phillips, 2 sizes, 1 flat, 1 Phillips, 2 sizes of square bits. I think that's a number 2 and a number 3, and 2 sizes of Torx bits. Because unfortunately the screws I buy, come in 2 to 3 sizes of Torx bits. 8 bits you're carrying would be nice, but then it gets really hard. The screwdriver gets too big for storage. So I've decided on 6 bits. So number 5, I think I'm pretty much there. You see, I've got a non-rectangular wood. I think this one is probably punky cypress, and blue resin. And yes, it's drilled out at the end with 5 bits there. As you can see in number 6, this is Punky Magnolia, which I never knew I could buy Magnolia, but I bought some near the fairgrounds at that place. So you see, I drill out one end for the shaft and turn, and then I drill out the other end to hold the bits. And at the other end, I recess a super neodyne magnet in there, so the bits are pretty secure. One of the learnings at this stage, where are we? Number 6, is that I can't just drill that 3/4 inch hole to hold the bits. I mean, sure, it'll hold the bits if you put the 3/4 inch neodyne magnet in there, but then when you actually use your fingers to remove the bits from the storage, you can't get your big fingers in there. So I had to drill 2 holes, you know, a 3/4 inch one where the magnet goes, and then recessed a little higher, a 1 inch one. And now I can access those. So I think I'm just about there. I can carry as many bits as I need. And it was a good exercise for me in learning how to turn, you know, combination of wood and resin. I first started, I knew I needed I tried to use a gouge to turn or a scraper to turn the resin wood, and it really chewed up the resin a whole lot. And so I ground a negative rake scraper, which I think is 25 degrees top, 65 degrees bottom. I was not happy with that. You're using a negative rake scraper as opposed to a regular scraper. I'd say it's about 60% as fast. And I found it to be not a very clean result. I still had to do a lot of sanding, so I moved up and I got the axe. I got this is a negative rake scraper. Let's see, can you see? I'm forgetting the name of the guy he's got a good book out now on scraping. But rather than being, you can barely see, rather than being
Flat.
a straight round piece, it's tilted down about 30 degrees, you know, and I like this one. This works really well. And a really good tip on a Rockler video, I can actually sharpen these. You know, if I remove this with a hex screw, I remove this little bit. It comes with 2 sizes of bits. You can put it down on a diamond sharpening plate, you know, let's say 1200 grit would be nice. Just put your finger on the little round piece and move it around, and you can in fact sharpen it, because that resin really dulls your tools well. So good exercise for me in resin and wood, and I'm 95% there to having my perfect multiple screwdrivers.
Right. One question for you, Greg. So on the end of the handle, you don't have any problem with your palm of your hand or whatever with those bits sticking out on them?
Well, it's a good question. The answer is no. If you go to number 4 and then 5,
These two?
I do. And this was, to me, was the tricky part, was that you need to make it deep enough that you can get your hand on the end of it and turn. And, you know, my first couple attempts, you know, I said, oh, it was good for 4 of the 6 bits, but rats, you know, number 5 was a little bit longer. So I found myself drilling out the hole on the drill press afterwards just to make it deeper. I think that number 6 is still not deep enough, but I was able to modify number 5 and 7 afterwards to get the hole the correct depth. But of course, if you've already epoxied in your neodyne magnet, then you've got to destroy that with your drill bit to get it out. So try to get the depth correct first time around.
How long are these screwdrivers? They look pretty short in the photo.
The one on the right is about 5.5 inches. The one on the far left is something like 8. And, I thought the 8 inches was too long because, I'm often, trying to screw something, inside a drawer or something. I'm happy with the 5.5 inches. And part of that is because of the ratchet mechanism. I really didn't care about the ratchet mechanism. I didn't think it would be that useful to me, but that's the format I can get from Woodcraft now. They I think no longer sell the kits on the left, 1, 2, 3. But I found the ratchet, which is has a forward and a reverse, to be quite useful. And when I use the ratchet, it is rare that I have to put my hand on the end of the screwdriver and screw it in. The ratchet does that. So yeah. So yeah, 5.5 inches, I'm happy with that.
Greg, save yourself money. Don't buy kits. The ones on the left are now dollar items at Harbor Freight with plastic handles you can just break or turn off.
Oh, okay, that's a good idea. And Norm, that begs the question of the bits. Functionally,
Well, you're
I
getting
like-
bits on your own anyway, so.
yeah, functionally, I like the kits on the left. Just the physical act of taking that longer bit around and flipping it over is good, but I can only get 4 of them in there. So on the right, these, the tiny bits are the standard size that I need for my drill driver, and you can buy a 50 pack of them. You might have to buy a few packs, but they're a very standard size, and you can get all the different types you need.
How do you get the bits to stand up straight in the end of that handle?
I have one
Magnet,
of the,
man.
it's the magnet, and it's the strongest kind of magnet. The neodyne super magnets, they're silver as opposed to gray. But one of the tricks is I drilled 2 holes in the end. One is 3/4 inch wide, the other is 1 inch. So you drill the 3/4 inch, I don't know exactly the depth, let's say 1 1/4 inch, and then I drill the 1 inch hole 1 inch. So there's a recess in there that the inner hole, 3/4 inches, is a little bit lower, and that keeps all the bits towards the center such that my fat fingers can get in there and pluck them out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, as Norm said, on the ones on the left, the shanks, you can buy those for a couple bucks a piece on Amazon. And there was an article in Wood Turning Fundamentals the last time or the time before about making screwdriver handles. And one of the comments there was that if you make your screwdriver handles out of ash, it doesn't actually cause blisters on your hands like other woods do. I'm not sure of the reason for that, but it said ash screwdriver handles won't give you blisters.
That's amazing. I have large quantities of thick ash in my stock, but I've never gotten blisters from the screwdrivers. Okay.
I have.
Okay.
I'm gonna put a couple links into chat in a few minutes, but I've done a lot of screwdrivers with the full ratcheting stuff, and they're on my website. So I'm gonna put a link to that page. Full ratcheting and also the 2-ways, but the full ratcheting ones with the long extension are actually 7-way because the insert is 2 different sizes of hex ratchet, hex head. And the other thing about, you said about the negative rate scraper with the carbide tip, I discovered a place that sells those replacement bits for way less than, the stock, $12, $15, $17 a piece. So I tried sharpening, resharpening them a couple different ways, not very successfully. So now I'm to the throwaway part.
Okay, good. I'd like to have that info.
Do that. Hold on.
I'll do that.
One of the things I've tried to do on the few handles, screwdriver handles I've done, if you go multi-axis and make them kind of sort of oval, they're easier to grip and they don't roll off the bench.
Okay, good idea.
All right, yeah. All right, thanks for sharing all that, Greg. That's
Sure.
all your experience and your evolution from through your 7 variations there. All right, Jeff.
This piece was in AAW April of last year. And it was intriguing how to get that 3D look. But the instructions made no sense whatsoever to me. I went through it a dozen times and never quite figured out what the guy was talking about. Eventually I emailed him and there was an error. It was supposed to be a 60-degree in the picture that was labeled as 30. And he said right, left, and top. It was right, left, and either front or back. There is no top. But it's a take on segmented turning. Can y'all see me on the camera here?
Yeah.
Okay. You're doing a 1-inch by 2-inch piece of wood, mitered off 60 degrees on both ends, and then glued up into a hex. Oh yeah, I see me. You pay real close attention to the grain. Keep it consistent. There we go. And you do it with, I used cherry, maple, and walnut. From there, it's 1 in the middle, 6 around that, 12 around that on the glue up. The individual cells are held together with rubber bands. The bigger pieces I use, the hose clamps I use for segmented turning. Around the edge, I filled it in with walnut rather than try to deal with those sharp edges. And then it's actually a shallow platter that I could not capture for the life of me with a camera. But I was real happy with the 3D look. It just does not look at all flat when you get done with it.
Hold it up on edge, Jeff.
Hold it up on edge. This edge or that edge.
Slightly.
It's very impressive.
Took some piddling to get it. Machining the wood to thickness was easy enough, and the height tells you how big your blank's going to be. Should have used 2.5 for the shallow bowl, 4 or 5 if you want a deep bowl. The angles I wound up having to use the miter saw because my table saw is just not good enough to set to own the money on the angles. But I am real happy. Now, that edge, that was scary. There's a whole lot of glue joints. There's a lot of end grain. There's a lot of unsupported wood. So I got it down to thicker than it really should have been and quit before I busted the whole thing into a million pieces.
Hold it up so we can see the bottom.
The bottom,
Yeah.
I used an expansion chuck to do the bottom.
Pull it back a little bit. Pull it toward your body.
Okay, how's that?
Much better.
I used an expansion chuck in the bottom. Like I said, I went with a 2-inch thick piece of wood or wood to start with. So I didn't have a whole lot of room to play like this. There was no way to put a tenon on it and have enough wood left to turn.
Pretty
Okay.
astounding.
Really cool piece, Jeff.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Epic piece.
I was actually contemplating bringing this one down to art exposure just to show, but
Why not?
Yeah, please do.
I guess I could. All right, I'll do that.
Put a insane price tag on it. And then you have to struggle with if they'll give that to you, will you part with it?
I'll have to ask my wife how insane to go. She likes it.
Or you can make another one.
Yeah, if I can sell this one for enough money, I can make another one.
Tell her to set the price.
Yeah, should be
Ask
another
her,
picture
sorry.
there. Did the second picture show up?
Well, let me see if we
Yep.
have,
Buy me a click.
nope, sorry.
Nope.
hold
No, there's
on.
two. Did they fall out? Double, yeah, it might have
We
been out
only
of
have the
sequence.
one.
No, there's two. It might be out of sequence.
Ted, go to the right.
Come down 2 more pictures or so,
Well, hold on.
to the right.
There you
There
go.
you go.
Oh,
Back
too
on,
far.
Back up.
back to,
Oh,
there.
There. Okay.
That's the way it was cut. It was, again, 2 inches tall and 1 inch thick, mitered off to 60. Then glued up with, keeping the grain all pointing the same direction. So you glue up the first one, leave it sitting there and use it as a guide to glue up the rest. So you get all your little cells the same, then keep that pattern consistent when you glue up the piece.
Looks pretty
and-
complicated to me.
It was no different than any other segmented turning. Once you get the pieces machined, even, you know, and the angle set, and fortunately 60 degrees is a stop on the chop saw, it was pretty straightforward. Lots of pine to practice to get things set up because walnut has gotten outrageously expensive.
Cool. It really looks great. You know, I got a little bit too big there now, but it's a fantastic looking piece. Yeah, you should definitely bring it down to art exposure.
All right.
Even if you don't want to sell it, you know, but like they were saying, put a ridiculous price on it, no, you know, if you want, but I would bring it down there regardless.
Okay.
Wow. Thanks, Jeff.
Hmm.
Okay,
Those are pretty.
Okay.
Gary,
so-
back to you.
Yeah, this is me. I hate throwing away wood that I cut down on my own property. So I have to figure out something to do with it. So I cut down a small branch and turned it into some of these. So my UFO style votive candle holders.
Cool.
So they're just, well, there's a little bit, I think, ambrosia in the maple there. And they're about 2 inches high and about 4.5 inches in diameter. They're all a little different in size. And I just wanted to make a set. So the one in the back is plain, the one I put some rings on, and the other one I did some texturing on and put some color in it.
Uh-huh.
So if you go to the next photo, you can see the top. So that's it, just ambrosia maple and a quick project.
Nice.
Yeah, I
Yes.
like the textures.
Yeah, I had to do something. The one that I left plain had, for me, the best, you know, spalting / ambrosia in it. The other ones weren't quite as good. So I needed to do something. And if I'm going to make a set of 3, I want them all a little bit different, actually, not identical. So the one that has the texturing and the color, that's actually brown shoe polish in there. So I put some brown shoe polish in the texturing, and then I kind of sanded it off lightly. But it still made it a little bit darker when I put some finish on there. Made the wood on the top a little darker, but
The rest of the wood, yeah, still
Yeah.
looks good.
they're
I mean-
still, you know, they're very simple, and I figure they're pretty. I wouldn't be adverse to lighting these candles since they're all in the glass containers.
Yeah.
Terry,
Yeah.
what did you use for the texturing? What
Well,
tool?
Well, the rings, I just used a point tool on the one, but the other one is the Robert Sorby texturing tool, the bigger one. I forget which blade I used in there now, or which circle cutter in there, but one of them. And obviously it didn't match exactly. So you can see that, as it went around, each revolution around didn't quite fall in the same hole. So you get a lot of scattering, and some of them are deeper than others.
Yeah, I like it. It's almost a feathering effect. I like that.
Thank you.
Well, they look like they were fun to make. I like making small stuff like that too.
Well, fun.
People
and
love
ea-
them. People
fun
love
and-
these things.
Yeah, fun and easy. Yeah, I got them done, and my wife said, "Oh, those are mine."
Yeah, yeah.
I
I can imagine. Yep.
and yeah, and it doesn't take that long. And it was wet wood. I rough turned them and drilled a hole and threw them in a bag of shavings for a year and pulled them out and said, I want something fairly easy. Let's do these.
Yeah, right. Well, thanks for sharing, Terry.
Sure.
Preston.
Yeah, hi, guys. I think I showed this piece before when it wasn't finished, but I really like this side view where the swirly colored grain, and then you can see the fissure in the bottom of it.
That's a fantastic photo, Preston. I told Steve we need to make that the album cover.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it is
Great piece too, but that photo is
Yep.
just incredible.
I agree totally. That's
Yeah, I used a lot of John's techniques. I still don't have it down yet, but yeah. So I fell in love with a piece of wood, and then when I started turning it, it started looking wonky. But I just kept going, and I said, well, I'm going to leave the top like it was and see how much of a bowl I can make out of it. I think there's another picture too. And you can see more of the wonkiness at the top, and then some other swirly grain in there too. Looks like there was a bunch of, on the left-hand quadrant, a bunch of little branches maybe. I don't know what those are, but or bird's eye. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks like little branches were
Yeah.
formed out of there. Yeah.
Cedar does that a lot. All those
Yeah.
little branches sometimes.
You can
That's
you can
beautiful.
tell because they feel like nails in the wood.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. It's got a lot of character, and that always interests me.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks, guys.
Was the original piece like thin? It was, or not round?
No, it was it wasn't round at all. You can, this is probably a side view, and each indention was where there was a great big it was a
The buttresses?
real wavy outside to it. It looked more
Yeah.
like a 5 or 6 sided something that had 5 or 6 sides on it.
Yeah, and that's the heart in the upper left, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So
Preston. I love it.
Yeah, those are the buttresses, and Preston, that's really just a beautiful bowl. Yeah, it's really lovely, kind of the semi natural edge that you have there. Yeah.
How big is it?
Your work has really come a long way.
Yeah, but thank you.
And I applaud your instinct on the, to not fix the scalloped edge or, the little missing chunks, but just to keep it just the way it is. Beautiful.
Yeah, this one is about, I meant to measure it, I'm estimating 7 inches maybe by 2.5, maybe 3. Yeah, it's 3. I remember now. Yeah.
if you don't want to sell that one, be very careful and put a very insane price on it, because that's a beautiful piece.
Yeah. You would think so much. Appreciate it.
Preston, what is the finish on this?
It's the I used actually Terry's friction polish, and then Frank Pinta's third. I think it's poly, Danish, and mineral spirits.
Yeah.
A couple of coats of that, and then it's got real milk paint wood wax on it to make it sort of food friendly, I'll say.
Yeah, it's not a friction finish, Preston. It's the my abrasive paste.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah.
I like the finish you have on it, Preston. It's got a nice sheen to it, which really emphasizes the grain. You don't see the finish, it's just a sheen to the wood. Looks
Yeah,
fantastic.
it's real satiny. I like that a
Yeah.
lot. Mhm.
Great job.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing more of those.
All right. Yeah, it seems like the wood that I'm drawn to takes the longest to turn, but I think gets the most bang,
Yeah,
most beauty out of it.
another nice one here.
Yeah, this is a piece of wood that Bob gave me. It's a maple cookie that looked just like this, about 3 inches thick. It was a little wider on the sides. On the ring foot, I decided to try to carve that out. That's my first attempt at carving feet, and a lot more effort than I thought it was going to be. This one's probably about 14 inches at its at the widest diameter,
Mm-hmm.
about 2.5 tall. One of the guys on Instagram, I think it might be Dan Young or somebody, but he shows the footed pieces and he's got some small light. Maybe it's the hallwing light that you found for us, Ted, but he puts it behind it and he has a dark area that he's taking the picture in. So really highlights the feet.
Yeah.
I couldn't find my light, so I just did something else there.
That's cool, Preston. That's
And I
really-
tried to take the curve of the bowl all the way through the center.
Mm-hmm.
Got close, but not perfect.
This is pretty good, I'd say.
Preston, this is like incredible. I mean, honestly, it's absolutely beautiful. And the carved
Well,
feet.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
feet are wonderful. I mean, the way the bottom is so close to the almost the table there, it really looks nice.
Really beautiful pieces.
That, and from a technical standpoint, and I'm no expert by any stretch, but I don't see any tear out. I don't see any, like burnishing from the tool rubbing. It just looks solid.
Hey, Ted, don't zoom in.
Uh,
I think you can zoom in all the way, and I don't see it. I mean, it looks. I'm jealous. Like I want to be able to do that.
Yeah. And one funny thing about the ingrained maple is I had sort of rough turned both sides and I was doing a final sanding, let's say on the outside maybe. And then I put some finish on it and then I turned it around and it was all wet inside. And the fibers or the capillary just pulled the finish up over both sides at the same time.
well, great stuff.
What gave you the best cut inside? Was it a bowl gouge or some other tool?
Yeah, I used a bowl gouge. Then I finished it with a negative rake scraper.
Beautiful pieces.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Nice. You got the same finish on this one as the cedar?
Yes, I
Yeah,
had
you
thought I
can
was
tell.
going to try to burn the rim. I thought that would look nice accent, but I was afraid I would mess it up. So next time
I
I'll
don't know.
try something like that.
I don't know. I think it looks fantastic like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Preston,
guys.
for
I sure
sharing
appreciate
that.
it.
Okay, Stefan.
So this is difficult to appreciate the size. It's a willow oak piece that is 15 inches in diameter at the waist and 13 inches at the opening. And it was wet turned and then dried for the next 2 or so years, and that's why it's distorted. It has a sealer cell finish on it. It has a round bottom, so it's like a calabash that you can move around when you eat in the middle of the table. And that's pretty much it. It's a piece of wood that was here during one of the storms, maybe 3-4 years ago, that went through Chapel Hill. The tree fell here close to our house across the street.
So Stefan, you turn this to the finished thickness when you roughed it and then just let it dry and then just sanded it afterwards?
Well, to be honest, I don't quite know why I interrupted the procedure 2 years ago. I think maybe at that time I'm not sure what I had planned to do, but I was surprised how much it distorted, and I liked the distortion.
Yeah.
But to answer it a little more serious, I think I had on purpose made it this. It's not really thin, it's still relatively robust. I think that was my purpose at that time.
Well, how thick is it? Because it doesn't look all that thick. It looks like it's maybe 3/8 of an inch thick or something.
So you're talking to a German, it's probably about 1/2 centimeter thick.
Right. Stefan, so that is really gorgeous. That's just an amazing piece. I think that you really nailed the spirit of the calabash. The distortion is awesome. I think that the weight looks really proportional and balanced. So yeah, you knocked it out of the park. I hope I'll see it soon.
Yeah, I agree. I really like that little bark area there on the left-hand side where the little rays are coming down.
Thank you both. The one thing I had considered here 2 weeks ago is to burn it on the outside to make it black. I like those designs on pieces where then you can have the original wood inside and the outside is roughened up, and oak is particularly good for that because of the soft rings in between. If I had 2 of these pieces, I would love to do that and see what that looks like. I think it would look good too.
Yeah, I would on this piece. I wouldn't, because I think the figure on the outside complements what's going on the inside.
That's my opinion too. I think it's beautiful the way it is, but
yeah,
I understand.
Fair enough. So I will be bringing that to the art closure on Saturday. So whoever is there will be able to see it.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
not bring any money because I'll end
Awesome.
up buying everybody's stuff.
You just trade, Michael.
Stefan, I was going to say one thing about this, and one of the other pieces that was shown, I had the picture that if you put this on a lathe, with rubber chucky or something like that, and then brought a butane or propane torch close to the rim and lightly burned it just in, at the rim, but nowhere else, that might be an interesting contrast. Maybe not for this piece, but as just a consideration for other shapes like that.
Alan, I like that's a good idea, but which part would you burn, the outside or the top of the rim, and how would you make sure it doesn't just bleed into and it's an irregular appearance?
I'm picturing just the top of the rim. And if it bleeds a little bit in, off the top and the other side, that's the artistic stuff that you can experiment with. But I just pictured the top part of the rim like that. Yeah, whatever. I mean, it's an idea. I like throwing them out. Ideas, that is.
So what was interesting about this piece when I picked it up again, 3-4 weeks ago to finish it, it was quite distorted also at the bottom. And I was able to turn it at the bottom so that it's very round at the bottom. It has a nice feel when you have it in your hand or on the table. It swings very nicely. Whereas the upper half is quite distorted. To me, it looks almost like a historic piece that was a Viking piece that was found in Norway and is now cleaned up.
Yeah.
It's
It could be
interesting.
found in the United States too. Let's just be honest. But anyway.
Or you just date it like, 700 AD or something.
Interesting that the photography does not allow the front there to be in focus, but that's what the wood is. It looks like it's out of focus. but the lines are not clear in that wood.
If you can fool your camera into using a very high f-stop like f22 or something like that, and a longer exposure using a tripod, you may be able to get enough depth of field to make that happen. That's how cameras work.
Well, it's a fantastic piece.
Beautiful.
You got some other pieces
Wow.
here too, Stefan.
Yeah, so so many of you know I'm a physician, and when we take a history of patients, it's very structured. It's the history of present illness, the past medical history, medications, then family history, and then social history. And I remember many patients because of their social history, because otherwise it's another patient with anemia or blood clot, etc. And I've gotten to know really interesting people that way. Once you ask, what is your hobby, or what do you do for a profession, but particularly the hobbies. And sometimes it's relevant medically too, when somebody's in a blood thinner and is a soccer player or what have you. Anyway, a week ago, I had a patient, and I took the history, and he told me he loves to bowl. He goes 3 times a week. And I've only gone bowling when I was a teenager with some high school friends. It's not something that I enjoy per se, but I was trying to find somehow he was very enthusiastic about it. So then I thought, what's the connection to wood with that? So I asked him, what are these pins made of? And he didn't know that, but he remembered that 25 years ago, he had made 375 points in a bowling match, which I didn't know what it meant, but it's very good. Then I looked up at home, and these pins are made out of maple typically with a plastic coating. Now, that got me to read about the shape, and it's interesting. The shape is not interesting, it's not unexpected. The shape is completely standardized by some American college of bowling association, God knows what. They are typically 15 inches tall, and they're divided into 3. So from the bottom to the biggest waist, it's 5 inches. From that to the smallest waist is another 5 inches, and then another 5 inches to the top. So at first, if you go to the next image, I think, oh no, go back again. I only submitted one. So first, 2 weeks ago, I made one in the original size, 15 inches tall, out of white oak, just to get a feel for it. I find it a little difficult to turn something to exact measurements. And I really like about wood turning that you don't have to pay attention to exactness. You just turn away something.
Good practice, though.
It's good practice indeed, and it's a good practice to make the same measurement as well. I fully agree with that.
You know, you were surprised about the standards, but if you think about it, if you were able to play on thin pins and I could play with fat pins, it wouldn't be much of a sport.
Yes. So once I saw the tall one, it looked like a bowling pin, but was not particularly interesting. I thought that might look good in a smaller size. So I calculated down, and these are 2/3 of the usual size, so they're 10 inches tall. And I made them out of black walnut on the left. Then I had some Japanese cedar from Kaburo and some eastern red cedar here on the right-hand side. And then the bowl or the sphere is out of black walnut. And I like to make, not that I've only done that once before, I like to make an ensemble, which looks more like a piece of artwork than just a single piece. So I used some weathered bubinga that I still had. We had talked about this a few weeks ago. At first, I didn't know what it was. I've learned this is bubinga. So it's weathered, and I left it the way the grain is, just so that one can focus on the wooden pins. It's finished with canuba, sealer cell first, and then canuba wax on top of that.
And as usual, my image would be to take that bowling ball, which is what, 12 inches in diameter to real scale, and make scale pins, sets of 10.
You
scale the pins to that ball.
Oh,
Is that an 8 ball? Is that the white that we can't really see?
Maybe.
so the ball was actually never meant to be in proportion to the real pins, and I don't know how big a bowling ball is. I can look at that.
Yeah,
I just added it because I thought it fits well with the size and it looks good, but
I'm now, Stefan, I'm just reversing the logic of that, saying that if there is a standard for a ball, it's probably about 12 inches in diameter, and there's a standard height for the pin. So scale smaller pins to that ball as if it were, you know, a real one, and make a few more of them. I'm just picturing it as a thing, and you get more pins per log too.
Yeah, it looks like a pool 8 ball to me.
Yeah, it does.
so then question is, anybody who's into bowling here on the call, and does it look odd to you that the sphere is so small?
Yeah, but that's the artistry of it. I mean, it's not meant to be to scale. I'm saying if you were to reverse that and make it to scale, it'd just be a different way of looking at it.
Yep.
That's all.
Yeah.
I like it. I
At
think
all.
they're beautiful.
I like the fact that it's not proportionate personally. I
Yeah.
think it conveys,
do.
if I put on my artsy fartsy hat, it conveys the meaning without being specific and identical, which would, I think would actually detract from it if it was the same exact size.
I'm not disagreeing with that, Michael. I'm saying that an alternative would be to reverse the scaling of it. I think this is beautiful, and the pins are gorgeous. I mean, Stefan's done a beautiful job. And the conceptual side of it, as you put it, the pins, and oh yeah, it's bowling, you know, with a ball there. That's conceptually, it's beautiful. I love it.
I'm sorry. I knew what you meant. I just got excited.
Yeah, well, I agree with Michael. I mean, I look at this and I say, wait a minute, what is that pool ball doing with the bowling pins? You know, and it sparks a real thought process for me because they're out of sync.
I agree.
Two very different sports.
It's not a
I
pool
look
ball
at it.
because the color's uniform.
Yeah, the
Not
pins
uniform.
are beautiful, but I agree. The scale of the ball, my only question would be if the scale of the ball was the same as the pins, it might block out too much of the pin.
Yeah.
Certainly, yes, you're all right. I completely agree. But keep in mind, that is not a billiard ball because it has the texture, the color is not uniform.
No, with the white on the bottom, I agree with Preston. It looks like an 8-ball from pool.
It doesn't have holes in it either. Can we move on? It's
No,
wonderful.
please.
I think it looks more like a bocce ball. It's not as small as a pool ball.
Yeah, let's
it's a
move on.
bocce
Yeah.
ball.
There's other kinds of bowling like duck pin and candle pin, which have all different sizes and shapes.
So
Can I just say one thing real quick? Just real
Or
quick.
cricket.
Stefan, I told you this on Instagram, but it really, to get that precision. Oh, and by the way, you had me at the soap note, you know, so you're speaking my language. But beyond that, the precision and the replication to me is just, it blows me away. The other part that I wanted to say real quick, there are workout, I don't know what they're called. Somebody else probably does. They're like workout batons that are
Duck
shaped
pins,
like
I
a
think
bowling
they're
pin.
called.
What are they called?
Duck pins?
Yes, those are cool for decoration.
allow me to say one word because the topic came up. I learned a few weeks ago from somebody there is a Japanese art philosophy, and many of you may know this, called wabi-sabi.
Yeah.
Ted, you're familiar with that?
Yes.
And it's that our eyes appreciate something that's not necessarily completely uniform and symmetrical. And in wood turning, that's the art to leave defects in wood, such as the Eastern red cedar that we saw from Preston, and not try to make it symmetrical necessary. So this just rings a bell. This was not on purpose, but this sphere is of a smaller size than usual, so it's out of proportion. So that is a wabi-sabi that immediately the eye says, just focuses more on it because it says this is something, it's not symmetrical. anyway, this wabi-sabi philosophy is really interesting. I'm paying more attention to that when I turn now, that it doesn't have to be symmetrical, that nothing is symmetrical, faces are not. And we appreciate that as humans, that something is not the same on both sides. Anyway, that's my little philosophy.
I think it's very nice as it
And,
is. Though if the ball was the scale, I think it'd be detrimental to the art piece. I think.
Thank you, Bruce.
Very good. Thank you,
Please
Stefan.
understand, I was not suggesting that he make the ball scale to those pins.
No, I understand what you're saying, and it would be a very interesting piece as well. I think.
It might be, yeah.
I think it would. I think it would be a very interesting piece and a good challenge.
Yeah,
but it would be a different piece.
Yeah, very. This is beautiful. I love it.
I have a couple of bowling pins, that are, regular bowling pins, not turned, but beautiful pins like this, Stefan, so you can match those up and see how well it came out.
A template would also be good too. If you want to get the scaling, just make a template of that shape. So before you put it on the lathe, you get it right every time in any proportion or length that you want. Okay,
Thank you. Thanks, Stefan, for sharing. That's really great work. Both pieces are wonderful.
Can I quickly say a word, Alan? I've never worked with templates, but I would love to learn that too. So maybe this is something our club at some point can show, how to make a template to repetitively make pieces similar. I'd be interested in knowing how to do that.
Contact me. I can give you some ideas about it, but yeah, templates are pretty easy. Actually, I've made several. Bye.
Okay. I'm tired, guys. Sorry. Cherry burl. I don't even know what the dimensions are. I sent him an email. I have no idea what the dimensions are. Cherry burl, I tried to go relatively thin on it because of those voids. And I left
6
the top.
inches in diameter.
What was it?
6 inches by 5 inches.
Thank you. 6 by 5. Actually, it's right here. So whatever that is. I don't know. It's not basket illusion, so I thought you guys would be happy with that. And I just try to leave it all natural. I like the top being natural. I just personally, and this is not me, being hyped on my own stuff, I was just very satisfied with how it came off the lathe in terms of shape. I just felt like it had a natural flow to it. Love the grain. I like the voids. I'm just really happy with this piece.
It's nice. Very nice.
Well, also, Stefan introduced, and some of you may or may not be familiar with the wabi-sabi, which is essentially including inclusions, like this, so voids and rough spots and so forth, and not making everything precise and finish and so forth is an art form. And it's a little bit complicated, but this also incorporates a lot of that. So it's a wonderful piece.
So what's that term? Because
wabi-sabi, I have a book on it. I don't know if you see if you can get.
No, I gotta go look it up because
not focusing, but I really
like it on Peanut.
Yeah,
it's basically the
on,
beauty of decay.
The beauty of decay. See, I didn't know what the terminology was. I didn't know how to articulate it to other people. Because sometimes, I'll message with people on Instagram and they're like, oh, it's not perfect. And I'm like, no, there's beauty in imperfection. Like, don't look at it that way. If it's perfect, then it's machined. And if it's machined, then it's not unique. I like the imperfection. So now I can just say wabi-sabi, and then I can make it look like I know what the hell I'm talking about. Good deal.
Right. Well, wabi-sabi is usually like, rusted steel, peeling paint, decaying flowers. And so this piece really does have that same feel. It's gorgeous, by the way.
Thank you. Now I'm going to title it Wabi-Sabi and pretend like I'm some kind of brilliant genius. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
I'll tell you what, Michael, I will bring my wabi-sabi book to the art explosion. And if any of you are interested, this book tells you more about what wabi-sabi is. You get some examples by Leonard Cohen. Koren. And looks like the publishing date's 1994 on this. But anyways, it's a great book about learning more about wabi sabi if you're interested in that.
I thought it was
Posted
horseradish. What do I
a
know?
web search on the term, so there's a bunch of pictures of examples and also a bunch of links. So that's in
Yeah.
chat now.
All right.
I like the concept of peeling paint alike. Next time Jill says we need to paint a house, I can just say wabi-sabi.
That's right.
Honey, our house is decorated all wabi sabi. A lot of
Yeah,
people pay money for
explain
this.
wabi-sabi to you.
Yeah.
And then
And
duck.
then for you guys, again, another non-basket illusion piece, and you are more than welcome. I do have a question on this piece, though. I'm hoping you guys can help answer. Real quick, so it's maple, harvested in Maine when I was up there on vacation last year. Freshly cut down tree. And this is where the question comes in. I took the trees, it literally was a freshly cut tree. I walked over there, asked to borrow a chainsaw, cut off a bunch of blanks, put them in the back of my truck, drove home after vacation, sealed them with anchor seal, and they sat for whatever, it was July until 2 weeks ago. In my garage, not anywhere special, not under a tarp, not anywhere. And then I had the intent on turning it. I actually wanted it to be bland and with no color because I was going to do texture and color and stuff. And I turned it and all of a sudden I was like, where the hell did all this spalting come from? So I don't know if I have a magical garage or what, but it's really heavily spalted. Considering.
I've had that happen to me with maple that I cut here in the summertime and put under my house where it's blocked from all rain and sealed and stuff. And I had some in a year I couldn't turn. It just rotted.
I mean, I literally have a table in my garage that accumulates everything I don't feel like putting away. And it was piled up underneath this banquet table, like the folding type table, just laying on the floor. I don't know how the hell it got spalted, but it did.
It's an unpainted concrete floor.
Correct. Ooh,
There's so
okay.
much water. There's so much water.
Oh, thanks, Lars. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, when I had the my workshop put in, the guy poured the floor for it, and for at least 2 or 3 years, I had uncontrollable mold and mildew everywhere, and then it went away. No problem anymore. But it took years for that to dry out.
So the garage is insulated. The garage door is insulated, but it is a concrete unpainted floor. Interesting.
Moisture
All right.
coming up from the ground through
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And every time you open that garage door, you bring in real humid air and
spores.
You can seal with anchor seal all you want. Maple's going to suck it up and it's going to spalt.
And you get spores through that air too, right? So anything.
Well, I have a magical garage. If you guys want to give me any wood, I can't promise you I'll give it back to you, but if you need something spalted, just let me know.
Also, it may depend on the maple in the time of the year Terry was alluding to. So if it's full of sugar in there, I don't think you're going to stop it from spalting unless you turn it right away and dry it out. I mean, immediately.
And I'm not disappointed, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna turn this and I'm gonna try and carve it and be artsy and I'm gonna dye it. And I got past the bark and I was like, what the hell's this?
Well, it doesn't look
lovely piece.
It doesn't look like it's punky either. Was it?
No, I think I caught it just in time.
You caught it
because
just
it's not
right.
punky, but it's spalted.
Yeah, you caught it just right.
Yeah, these types of woods look like a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty piece.
On that piece, the other thing I liked the flow. I'm really big on trying to, not big as in good, big as in working on trying to get a steady flow from that lip all the way around without any flat spots or bulges. And so I was pleased with the way this one come out too.
That's very nice, Michael.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Shape is really nice.
Yeah, sweetness all over.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And
Michael.
then if you guys are at Arts Closure this weekend, all you'll hear is, what's it for? What do you do with it? And you'll just hear
exactly.
me. Yeah, yeah.
You look at it, right?
Why do you have
It's
what's
for
that?
pouring soup.
Can
A
you put
bowl-
water in there? Can I put flowers in there? Yeah.
Yeah, they know what a bowl's for, but the rest of it, forget it, right? Tell them they put a candle in it.
Dried flowers.
Okay,
No,
Norm.
don't tell them to put a candle in it. If it catches their house on fire, they'll sue you.
Well, you're not supposed to light it. You're just supposed to put the candle in there.
Add a disclaimer sheet with everything you sell.
This is a big leaf maple from Mike Smith wood. This one was turned probably a year before COVID and sat in my shop, and I just had a need to turn a simple bowl, so I went at it. It's a little quarter leaning toward 3/8 thickness. Very simple. That the wood had so much figure, I just said let the wood talk. And the other shot shows the shape.
Yeah, it's very nice. I like the shape of it a lot, and the grain really
I
pops
was
out
gonna say
there
the same thing.
too.
That's a beautiful shape.
Yep.
God, that is awesome.
I like
The rim is a real nice accent.
Yeah, your in sloping rim. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
How big is this one?
It's about just under 13.
Okay.
I'm getting to really like that in sloping rim. I think that's a gorgeous treatment. I just love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, great footing too. That foot's just right. Beautiful shape.
Yeah, I'm trying to get
Yeah.
away from the one of our former leaders, who's a great artist, had me focusing on tiny feet. And I'm trying to break that habit and let him go a little bit bigger.
Well, that one looks big. The foot looks big enough to make it stable, but yet small enough that it's not. It sets it up right and makes it look a little more artistic. So, I think it's a pretty good balance.
Yeah, it's the right height. The diameter is wonderfully in proportion. You know, it could be a 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 inch bigger or whatever, but it's just gorgeous. I love it.
You have a little bit of a taper on that foot, Norm.
Yeah, it curls out just a little tiny bit.
Okay.
It's not a straight line. It just the photo doesn't really show it. From the foot, you can see it drifts out very quickly.
Yeah.
As it should. I think that's the right way to do that. It adds to it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I really like a dovetail foot a little bit like that. That's really a gorgeous piece, Norm. Beautiful.
Yeah, I'd agree. Really like the sharp rim.
Nice.
I'll mark that up.
You
about
have another
20 or
piece here
30%.
too for us.
Yeah, just more potpourri bowls. The left one is Western cedar, just a real simple shape. And Western cedar is not that attractive, so I put some burn lines in it. The other one is this beautiful piece of maple, and I had a hell of a time. I mean, I think you can see it, but it has really dark, dramatic figure. And I kept trying to catch it in the photography, and I didn't really do it justice.
Norm, you said that was maple?
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
I'm sorry, did I say I meant walnut? Obviously,
Oh,
walnut,
okay.
black
Okay.
walnut. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a relief. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like Norm has a magical garage too. Holy cow.
Yeah.
You might try a little less lighting on that. That might help a little bit too. It's a little bit overexposed.
Well, I tell you, and that is purposely in the afterwork overexposed, because without it, you don't see any of that figure.
It's all black. Okay. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Nice shape though. I like that.
Yeah, they're both really nice. I like the warmness of the left one and the swirly grain of the, might be Clara maple. I
You're
mean,
right.
walnut.
It might have been, I think it was Clara walnut, come to think of it.
Yeah, it looks like it could be because it has a little bit of a red to it.
And that wonderful tapering inward rim.
Yeah, I mean, I had success with that on a Bradford pear one a while ago. I decided to try it again. It's a nice effect on those little things.
Yeah,
I like that. I like
sets
that.
off the the metal piece in there.
All right. Well,
These are out of sequence. Go to Craig's big one first.
There we go. All right, Craig.
All right, so this piece I started over a year ago. Had some problems, left it on the lathe for 2-3 months to figure out what I was going to do. Originally, this piece was just going to have 3 main centers and 9 rings, but on the second ring, I had a bad catch and I couldn't salvage it because I try to keep all the rings the same diameter, width, and depth. So I just came up with doing all this to it and debated for the entire year I was making it if it was going to be too busy or not, because the ambrosia maple, I didn't know if it was going to fight the curly maple or not. But once it was finally assembled, I figured, I kind of grew to like it.
Are you at Art Explosion this year, Craig?
No, I haven't done art exposure for 10 years.
Gotta come back, man.
Belongs there.
It does. Well, I'm sure it belongs in better places, but it would make a killing there, I'm positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last time I did art exposure, I did sell a small wall sculpture, but I think my pieces are getting too large for the crowd at art exposure.
There is a guy that sells big metal wall pieces that look like they're either in, if you have a house that's, significant with a large entry, or it's for like an outside area. And
Right.
they're probably that big. And last year, every single one, he didn't let anybody remove them. You paid for them and you came back and got them at the end of the show. I went by his booth a couple times, and at the end of the day on Sunday, every single one of them was sold. So,
Wow.
you know better than me. You've done it before, but I think there's a new crowd in town. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I'm also not set up for outdoor shows anymore, which just require me getting a very large tent because my walls are 8 feet high right now. To
I
hold.
mean, you can just give them all to me, and I'll take care of them for you. Don't worry about it.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
That is absolutely stunning, Craig.
It's
I think
beautiful.
the form and the ambrosia maple work perfectly together. Do you ever name your pieces?
Usually not. No.
This one screams for a name of some kind. I can't tell you why.
Yeah, sometimes they do. I mean, sometimes the name will come to me, other times they don't. So I just leave it be. But this piece finished is 29 3/4 wide and 47.5 tall.
Wow.
It's 2
Epic
5/8 thick. The background is copper.
Um,
I keep thinking of rising bubbles in the ocean. I don't know why. That's
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
As a scuba diver, that's exactly where I was going.
Yeah.
I just see bubbles.
Yeah.
I was thinking raindrops in a pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I had
With
two
the
thoughts.
flashes.
One was starry sky, but then when you talk about bubbles, I would call that champagne.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That works. I like
Colors
that.
are kind of there too.
Also gives you a nice price point too.
Yeah, it does. But
Top shelf.
Dom Perignon.
Yeah.
it was very rare for us to find some curly ambrosia maple. So if you look at some of the ambrosia lines, they actually get zigzagged in the curl.
Yeah.
And this board actually did come from World Timber. My wife and I went down there a couple years ago and filled our van up with a lot of lumber.
Those two words play nicely together too. Ambrosia champagne.
Yeah.
All right. Well, add wabi sabi in there. We are good to go.
That's right, yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Craig. It's really
Thank you.
cool. Real nice. All right. Well, this last 2 pieces here are mine. And I just wanted to share these. Not the wand so much. I think I've shared those before. So whenever I have some scrap stuff left over and I got a little bit of time, but not a lot of time, and I want to do something, turn something quick, I turn one of these wands. And, but, you know, they just end up in a pile someplace or something, you know, so I've been thinking about how can I display these things so they look a little cooler, you know, to do that. So I had this piece of cherry block and I just put some notches in the end of it is all. And then I actually, before I drilled the holes in it, because I was going to drill these holes at an angle in there, and I took a piece of 2x8 or something, you know, it was about 10 inches square or something, and I drilled holes and started doing it at an angle and tried it, and it wasn't working. It was, everything was like falling over from that. So I actually ended up, because this is a curvature on here, I ended up drilling these holes straight in. So they're straight down in, even though the pieces, because of the lip here is at an angle, slope, they tip out. So it came out pretty cool. And the middle one, I just wanted to have the middle one something different. So it's facing up, and I think in the next photo here, yeah. So I just drilled a hole in here and put a nail in it, and the nail just slips in and out. And then on the end of one of the wands, I just drilled the same size hole, so it just slips over the top of that, and then I can, you know, have a kind of a centerpiece to it on there. So
You're gonna grind down that nail point, right?
I did, yeah. It's rounded off. Yeah, yeah. You can't get hurt by it. So, so anyways, I just wanted to share that to show there's, you know, just a different idea for just not a turned piece, but the pieces go in and of course are turned.
Yeah, beautiful shavings too. There's a background.
Yeah, that's my backdrop.
Ted, I think when you go to our disclosure, just put Hogwarts wands and they'll all be gone in a minute.
Yeah. Well, let's
Wabi
hope so.
sabi Hogwarts.
Wabi
wand.
sabi wands. When I also have which I'll show you the next one, my next piece that I made for display, I have these little electric turntables. And so I have 2 of them, and I plan to put this on top of one of those, and it will rotate around. So it should look pretty cool there. And then this is the other piece that I made, which is, so I've shared these napkin rings that I make with you guys before, you know, and again, I make a lot of these out of scrap stuff, you know, that I have left over, and people just love them. But I same problem, you know, how do you display these things? So I thought about it, and I came up with this idea. So I made this this is one solid piece right here, made it look like napkin rings, although they're not. I mean, because it's solid piece in there, decorated it up some, and then I did make another ring for the top, and then I just glued that in there on the top of the piece. And then I took these little pieces of dowel rod and turned the end so there's kind of a little point and a little cove, you might say, in there. And then I just wrapped these with ribbon around the napkin rings and hung them on those pieces right there. So again, I'll put that on a turntable and it'll spin around.
Yeah, that's going to go quick. I thought it was a totem pole at first.
That was my thought. Yeah, yeah, napkin ring totem pole. That's cool.
Yep.
Great display. Yeah.
Very clever and pretty. Like that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I think that's it, guys.
All she wrote.
Awesome.